know anything that's got a cork in it, it's gotta be good. Cavassier, Cognac, French distilled, Champagne. Whoa, great stuff. The joyous occasion. "30 years from when I first went on the road" was actually May, I believe, closer to the 22nd. "30 years, somewhere between May 22nd, May 25th of 1981 to May 22nd, May 25th of 2011. It really is a very wonderful flavor. So a little bit of a celebration for that. It's a marvelous thing what humanity has learned to make out of a few grape squeezins. You might even think it was a miracle. But that brings up the other topic. I was visiting a YouTube friend of mine's page, Randall Curtis, spelled just like you would think it'd be, all ran together like it's one word, but it's David Randall Curtis. Let me say it right. Great poet, great performer here on YouTube. If you like poetry, if you like just spoken word and kind of a little bit of the beat generation, a little bit of the street, a little bit of modern, he's real good with that. But he's featuring a video right now of this other gentleman. Mind the language, please. This is the guy's name. Again, it's all one word, I believe. Theoretical bullshit. So you gotta spell it all out, but I think that's what it is. If you look for that on YouTube, you'll find the guy, I think, that posted this video that I'm replying to. And he's talking about the Kalam argument, which some people believe supports the belief in a logical manner, in a philosophical manner, that there is a God. And so when I'm watching this video, I'm thinking, oh my God, I know David Randall Curtis is a very intelligent man, a very thoughtful man. Does not usually support some of the less rational, logical thinking people, but I misunderstood the guy at first. The way he was saying it, it sounded like he was supporting the belief in God, and I'm not here to put down the belief in God. In fact, you may end up coming away from watching this video thinking that I'm a strong believer in God, or that I support the belief in God. And I don't know whether there is a God or not. So if I'm anything, I'm not atheist, and I'm not particularly theist. I'm probably in that gray area, agnostic or whatever. If you put a gun to my head and make me say it, logically speaking, I'm an atheist. Total, can't be a God, everything is logical, everything happens as cause and effect. But if you put that same gun to my head and ask what I believe or what I feel is true, then I come out a lot more hazy. I don't think it's all bullet points and logic and hierarchies and structure and formalities and punctuation. There's a lot of spirit and other things that's going on. Science doesn't explain it, doesn't even attempt to explain it. And yet, everybody knows it's there. So, are we just denying it because we don't be called a fool? We deny that they're ghosts, or we're denying that there's ESP, or we're denying that miracles do happen, even though we may have seen them, or felt them, or believed in them, just because we don't want to be a fool, don't want to be told, well, you can't explain it. Well, some things you can't explain. But there you go. You can argue it either way. I believe in logic. I believe in what's in front of me. I believe in my eyes tell me I see. But I also know I could wake up and all of this was a dream. And if you've never had that dream before, just will you have it, then come back to me and say, oh, I know what you mean now. Anyway, so this guy that Dave Randall Curtis was featuring, the theoretical bullshit, actually not just theoretical bullshit, that's his name, was replying to a Dr. Craig, and apparently this guy is really well known. I did not know how well known he is. If he does have a chance to hear my discussion of this, I hope that he will be a little charitable. I'm not out to prove I'm anybody. I'm not anybody. I don't know anything. Just my opinions, my thoughts. I'm probably going to post this as a reply to theoretical BS. I'm just going to say that from now rather than keep on saying the word that way. Probably post this video as a reply to his video, and so I hope he will enjoy it, enjoy my thoughts on it. He actually asked for responses, and that's the only reason I'm making one, really. Then I had to break out the cognac. 30 years since I was on the road. This is liable to be a ramble, folks, so sit back and relax. You'll know when it's over. Dr. William Lane Craig is the gentleman who I believe is using the Kalam argument, or propose a Kalam argument. It's K-A-L-A-M argument, that there is a God, and it goes something like this: whatever exists has a beginning, or begins to exist at some point, and that beginning is caused by something, someone. If you read the whole thing on the Wiki, it talks about for every movement there's an equal opposite movement. We know this in science, Newtonian physics. But something has to move that first movement. So then there's a movement before that, and then there's a movement that moved that movement, and then there's a movement before that movement. And so the way the philosophy goes, the argument for God is that somewhere at the very beginning there was a first movement that wasn't caused by movement. This movement was a pure movement in the sense that it only moved something in order to get all the movements to begin to move. It was the beginner, the progenitor, the creator, the starter, the being which caused existence to exist, the being which caused the universe to exist. And so the way the argument's used, and I'm really just barely trying to grasp it myself, so I'm probably misdescribing some of these things, and will welcome criticism and corrections if you guys notice I'm grossly misquoting information here. But what it implies is that the universe came into existence, and so something or someone or being must have caused the universe to come into existence. It doesn't just come into existence of its own will. If it doesn't exist, it has no will. If there's nothing there to cause it to come into existence, it doesn't come into existence. So by the fact that it exists, it must have been caused to exist. That's my understanding of how the philosophy goes. And where I was misunderstanding the guy in the video theoretical bullshit, what he was saying is that by the same argument, there can't be a God. If you use the logic, the same logic, if you have to have something to cause something to happen, then by the same logic, something can't cause something to happen that hasn't been caused to happen. I'm just talking in circles now. Too much cognac, or not enough. Like I said, sit back. Maybe I should quote the classical Kalam argument. This is not Dr. Craig. This is what he bases his belief on. The classical Kalam Cosmological Argument, at least in the Wiki article I'm reading, states, number one, everything that has a beginning of its existence has a cause of its existence. Number two, the universe has a beginning of its existence. Therefore, number three, or one of the therefore, they got both numbers here. I don't know how to keep up with it. I'm calling it number three. The universe has a cause of its existence. If the universe has a cause of its existence, and number four, then that cause is God. And then number five, the conclusion, therefore God exists. So it's saying everything that has a beginning of its existence has a cause of its existence. The universe has a beginning of its existence. The universe has a cause of its existence. If the universe has a cause of its existence, then that cause is God. Therefore, God exists. Now, that's how the classical Kalam argument goes. And Dr. William Lane Craig states it in a more contemporary form. His number one is, whatever begins to exist has a cause. Number two, the universe began to exist. Number three, therefore the universe has a cause. Number four, this cause is the God of classical theism and is a personal being because he chose to create the universe. Look it up in the Wiki. It's K-A-L-A-M argument, the Kalam argument. But this is what Dr. Craig is saying, his additional ideas behind it. And I don't know that he's wrong or right. I'm not familiar with the argument enough to really draw a whole lot of solid conclusions from it. I feel like there's a lot there that's just not quite logical. It's the same kind of thing where if you want to talk critically about religion to someone who is a strong believer in religion, you're not going to end up on a real solid logical grounding, standing, if you go into much detail with them about how something came to be or whether there actually could or isn't a God, because they're not going to stick to all of the rules of physics like we hope or believe, those who believe in the scientific method and all that. I'm going to come out against that in just a minute here, so don't you worry. Just relax. What I'm saying there is just that a lot of times religion relies on faith, on your belief beyond what you see in front of you, what you can calculate. And so if you're going to choose a mode of existence which requires a less rigid form of understanding life around you than what you can see and hear and feel. That was my air conditioner kicking on. See, I heard that, so I know this air conditioner. It got hot in here, and so the heat caused the air conditioner to come on. We'll get into the whole cause thing in a minute too. But so I just feel like there's a lot of stuff in this whole Kalam argument that most people that are well grounded in rational, logical thinking, they're just not even going to consider it. This really doesn't stand up to scrutiny. If you want to pick it apart, you can pretty easily. For one thing, you're saying that actual infinity cannot exist, and then you're saying God's infinite. You know, which is, does actual infinity not exist, or does God not exist? And then you're saying that, oh, well, now this is what theoretical BS guy said about something causing something to exist. According to the rules of thermodynamics, the conservation of matter and energy, nothing's lost. Everything changes and fluctuates. Matter turns into energy, energy turns back into matter. And if you measure it, make careful measurements, and this was done back in Newton's times. I think it was a contemporary of Newton, Isaac Newton. 1800s, maybe earlier. Nothing's lost. If you measure the evaporation of water out of a beaker that turns into gas and ends up cooling into another beaker on the other side, and you measure the difference or whatever, it all comes out to the last drop. We've known this for a long time. So nothing that doesn't exist already in some form suddenly exists. It just doesn't happen. Except if you take it down to the quantum level. So I'm contradicting myself, but that's science for you. Science is contradicting itself for my sake, so that I'm the fool up here talking science. According to some science theories, some formulas, matter does suddenly exist from nothing and then suddenly go back away again. Boop, boop, boop. A positive and a negative particle will exist for just fleeting ints of a second and then suddenly combine back together into nothingness. This happens according to quantum physics all over the place. They've measured near black holes where those particles will pop out and one will get sucked into the black hole, leaving the lonely mate without its counterpart. to join back with and turn back into nothingness. That's how some black holes have been discovered. They've been able to measure these random particles out there and say, hey, look, something's causing that. I'm going to let you watch theoretical BS's video to get his view on it. It's much more articulate than mine. And I think you'll see lots of strengths in it. I think some of his argument, and if I speak directly to you, Scott, I believe your name is, some of your arguments are they feel logical. They feel like they fit together real well. But you can almost pick them apart the same way as you can pick apart the Kalam argument. And so by the same token, I'm playing the devil's advocate tonight. Rather than go, bravo, well done, you did good. Once again, proving that some of these wacko creationists, fundamentalists, or whatever you want to call them, some of them are too far. And you proved once again that this kind of an argument would be silly. And your proof, I think, is much better than what I could say about it. There were a few counter-arguments to the counter-argument. So, theoretical bullshitter said, the counter-argument says that this, and then if that's so, then this couldn't be there. And basically, I think it's kind of stating that when something's caused to exist, he used the example of a carpenter makes a table. He doesn't create the table out of nothing. He doesn't cause the table to come into existence out of nothing. He causes it to come into existence out of pre-existing items, objects. So, again, conservation of matter and energy. The tableness was already there. The table effects, the table material. The carpenter just changed them in such a way that he made it, the wood, into the table. So he caused a table to exist that didn't exist before. But he didn't just cause it willy-nilly out of the air. He had to have the wood there to make the table. And I think that's a pretty good argument that, excuse me, cognac burp, that, along with the idea that God created the universe, then, or caused the universe to exist, then did he cause it out of nothingness? Or was there universe stuff there that God then fabricated into the universe? And if that's so, we've got to change our definition of what the universe is. The universe is supposed to be everything. And that's supposing that there was something else before the universe that God made the universe out of. So this universe table material here, and table leg, and that little short piece that you put in the middle so that you can make the table longer, already existed for the universe so that God could fashion it all into the universe. And so he's saying that can't happen if you just popping the universe into existence. It's just poof. It's nothing from nothing. It's just suddenly popping there. Now, according to quantum mechanics, when I say quantum mechanics, I'm speaking of particle physics on that atomic level. For anyone who may not be familiar with that terminology, quantum mechanics has a lot of strange stuff going on with it. When you get down to the level of the atom, there's a lot of things that just don't act the same way as what we think of as normal in our normal observations, existence. And according to quantum mechanics, some things do pop into existence, but it's like equal and opposite things, so that when they combine, they disappear again. -1 plus 1, back together 0. So it still equals out. Conservation of matter and energy. Except for that one few rare times next to the black hole where one atom gets eaten by a black hole, or one particle, and the other particle's left out there hanging. That particle came from nothing and lost its ticket home. So I believe theoretical BSer was saying that the Kalam argument's kind of silly against itself, because it's supposing that God created the universe out of nothing, and yet that's not any definition of anything that we understand. We don't understand that. There's nothing that you can describe that got created out of nothing. You can't build a table out of nothing. Put a carpenter in an empty room with no table material, and he cannot build you a table. So we would have to imagine that somehow, through the mysteries of belief, God could perform that as a miracle of creating that which does not exist, being the first, the mover who moves things that does not need to be moved. So just back to you, Scott, again. Get back on that. I was just trying to shoot a few holes in your argument, just to see if it would hold up. One of the perfect examples is the quantum physics thing. That apparently some things do come into existence out of nothing. Now, it doesn't mean that there isn't something there causing that to happen, or some table material on the other plane in some other universe, or coming from somewhere else that we don't see it. What we can measure in this universe, sometimes there appears to be effects that we can't explain coming from outside of this universe into ours. So right there, might say there's a little bit of flexibility as far as whether there were materials outside of the universe, that God caused the universe out of universe materials. That's one argument that might could be used. In other words, yeah, he did go poof and put it together like a carpenter putting a table together. And before that moment, before the baby was born, the baby did not know of existence. The table wasn't there, the universe wasn't there. And once the baby was born, started existing, started witnessing, observing, and in that way, the universe got created by God. You know, our logic doesn't work with God. That's another argument. You know, we're saying it's completely logical that to cause the table to be made, the carpenter has to have table materials, but maybe the table is there, or the spoon is not a spoon. It's a quote from the Matrix, I forget. And you mention magicians of the past, trickery, doing things that seem to be creating out of nothing, but there was always something there. I mean, I agree. That's provable as far as I can see, that it has to be something there. You have to have the material to make whatever it is you're making. Which would suppose there was something before the universe. And then that kind of throws God a little bit out of kilter, because was it just God? Where did he get the materials? Did he make it out of himself? So there's a philosophical idea. The universe, life, existence as we know it is God. That this is God. You know, it's no beginning or ending that we know of, but we don't think we were always here. We don't remember always being here, and we've seen a lot of people, perhaps our friends and loved ones even, who have passed away, gone on into some other form. Perhaps conservation of matter and energy also includes conservation of spirit, soul, in some other form, but maybe not in the form that they were while we talked to them here on this earth, on this plane of existence in this universe. So we don't know, you know. Science hasn't explained all of that yet. You acknowledge we don't even know if there was a beginning of the universe. The Big Bang Theory is one theory, that the universe suddenly came into existence, a huge explosion, and all the matter and energy and molecules and everything that we know of were created in a very short period of time, and has grown and expanded to the point it is at which it is today, and perhaps one day will fall back in on itself. That's one theory, or it may continue to expand, or it may reach an equilibrium. Various theories concerning the Big Bang. And then there's theories that don't concern there being a Big Bang in the beginning, that maybe it's always been there. Maybe there is a continuous motion that pushes the motion, that causes a motion, that causes a motion, and that's just infinite. If we can conceive of infinity, then perhaps infinity exists. I'm just saying. Doesn't mean that it exists. It doesn't mean that we could prove that it existed. I'm going to prove that infinity exists. Now just wait a minute. Wait for it. See, if we were to prove it exists, it would take a very long time. And that's a joke. So we don't know. Maybe God can create stuff out of nothing. Maybe he is like the supreme master magician. Or it's not magic to God, it's a process. Thought, where does thought come from? Where does it go? Where does it end? What happens from that thought? Thought is a material. Is thought measurable in any way? Can we, conservation of thought? And yet, it's our thoughts that we've created and dreamt and told everybody and explained all of this. All our beliefs, all of our witnesses, our observations, our calculations, our creations. And where does that come from and where does it go? And it's nothing. It's in the air. It's ether. It doesn't, no substance, nothing you can measure. They say you can measure some brain waves. They haven't quite gotten it down to where they can read your mind yet. Well, not that I know. But, you know, so, yeah, heck yeah. I can conceive of infinity. I can conceive of a God who can just snap it all into existence out of nothing. Blow all the scientists out of the water. I cannot prove it. I cannot prove that it doesn't exist either. And I'm not proponing that it exists, but you're going to try to be logical about it. You may be left with fewer choices and reduced ability. Your ability has a lot to do with what you have a choice of doing. If you're in a wheelchair, you don't have a whole lot of choice of being able to get up and walking or running or using your legs, if that's where you're handicapped. And all I'm saying is, you can handicap yourself in your thinking if you only leave yourself with the choices that seem to make sense. Yeah, we all do that. You have to do that to survive, and I tend to rely on it too. Just playing devil's advocate, and there's certainly some people who do less of it than they should. They should do more critical thinking, more rigorous, rigid lab proofs and whatnot. Way more before you go out there and start a war over something you can't even, it's my God, my God. You know, it doesn't make any sense at all. I don't think any of that's God. All of those people are stupid and not countenanced by God. That's not God's doing. Or if it is, I would choose not to believe in him to his face. And he gave me choice, so that's something I can do. Obviously, I would do it out of pure rebellion if I were to believe the scriptures. Sometimes maybe I do. Alright, so here was a few other ideas I came up with, a little more thought to it. I wrote them down. Just going to read them. What about constant creation? The concept that each moment, each movement, each feeling, each thought, each experience is constantly being created in the now. Nothing before, nothing after. Just now. Now where is God? There's no causer and beginning to start everything. It's just now. Now, 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 now. All that other didn't exist. This whole long video up to this point didn't exist. It's just created in your mind as a memory. And the now. That's the only thing that exists. Right now. Right now. Right now. It's a very Eastern thought. So now where is God? He's nowhere. And he's everywhere. Constantly creating. Now. Just wide open everything. Depending only in however you choose to believe in that moment, and always subject to change, as memory seems to imply. Now, see, memory only can imply a past, because memory is not the past. And as so often happens, we don't remember accurately. We don't remember the past accurately. So if memory can be wrong, everything's wrong. There's nothing provable. Now is the only thing that exists. Memory's faulty. And so, now. God's creating it all right now. Including the memories. Or so they seem to imply. Alright. Another one would be, maybe the universe doesn't exist yet. Maybe these are the parts that will be put together to form the universe. Maybe it is still coming into existence. Maybe it will never be completely or completed as an existence, but instead will continue to be formed, always being formed. It's kind of like the now thing. But it also implies a growing. Perhaps the universe is becoming the universe. And that process is time, or we experience it as time and experience it as the events and what we observe happening within that time. And all of that is a part of our existence, which is a part of our universe, but no one is to say that any of our universes are really the same, you know. And again, then get to those gray, fuzzy areas of physics and such. That seems to say there is a universe that we're all existing in, and it attempts to describe that through rigorous reproducible results in science. Experiment dropping a 10-pound ball and a 1-ounce ball off of a shot tower. They used to make shot that way. I'll explain that if you want. I forget, was it Galileo? One of those guys dropped them off the top of the wall, and they both hit the ground at the same time. How can the heavier object be as slow as the lighter object? Well, gravity is just pulling at the same rate. Doesn't care what it's pulling. But there you go. That's one of the laws. We're all bound by that. And then you hear about somebody falling out of an airplane, jumping out of an airplane, their chute doesn't work, fall 1,000 feet to the ground and hit the ground and walk away. They landed in a mattress factory or something. Sometimes physics doesn't quite seem to make sense. And those people who are rigorous about their science will say, well, if we knew all the factors, we could explain it. We just don't have all the factors. And maybe we haven't measured everything. Haven't measured enough yet. And that I can agree with too. But until we do have all those measurements in, we don't have a finite universe, a finite science. So the universe is infinite, infinitely strange and mysterious to us until we know all of that stuff. And if we ever got to the point where we could know it all, and I don't even imagine that human brains are big enough to handle that, I don't know if that would give you some sort of transcendence of spirit of mind, enlightenment. Would you become one with the universe? Your Kundalini awakening, your spiritual rising. Some religions talk about that. I think the Hindu and the Hindi religion talk about a form of experience where you do experience the oneness, I guess similar to what Buddha talks about with nirvana, the oneness with everything, and you understand the trials and tribulations of daily life really make no sense and don't matter in the long run. And then I was thinking of stuff like a sound. If you create a sound, you don't form it from materials, but I guess really you do form it from your voice. Somehow you're able to change the molecules in the air to vibrate in such a way that it carries that vibration to someone who can hear the vibration, and then they interpret that as sound. Or if you tap on something, or snap your fingers, or just talk, or clap your hands. My eyes bother me, I guess you could tell. That the sound doesn't, what I was getting at is you don't have materials that you've changed. You've changed them for a moment. They're changed only during the time it takes for that vibration to pass through those molecules. So it's not quite a table, and it's not quite causing something out of nothing. There is something already there, and you're acting upon that which is already there. You can't act upon it if it isn't there. If the air isn't there, if there's no molecules there, if you're in a vacuum, there'll be no sound. So you're manipulating materials to cause the sound. And then once the sound is done vibrating, it's gone. Maybe in your memory. And then we get into that gray area, in the gray matter. Oh boy. Don't get me started. I should be finishing. And so then the last sort of little thought I had about it was, if the existence of God is an opinion, then too perhaps the existence of fact or truth or logic or reason or scientifically provable and reproducible results may also be an opinion. I know those who demand the rigidity of provable certainty often are quite tedious and dull. It is as often they who cannot imagine a life better lived with the freedom to dream fantastic things and not submit to a dullard's mental slavery of facts and proofs. And with that, and one last toast to 30 years anniversary of my road trip. Please check that out if you have a chance on my channel. It would be a playlist just titled The Road. 30 years, and I'm still surviving. This is just the best stuff. Get the VSOP. Go ahead, it's $50. Whoa, did I say that out loud? I only buy it once in a very blue moon. Adieu.